Chicken, beef, or whey, which is the best one for muscle building and your bodybuilding pursuits? So today I have 6 points that we're gonna cover. I have chicken, I have beef in front of me, and I also have whey. So we're gonna cover and see which one is gonna be best for what you need for bodybuilding. So first point, macro and micronutrient content in these. And when we look at them, macro-wise, for 25 grams of protein, so it's gonna be a scoop of your Anna whey, or about 4 ounces uncooked, 3 ounces of cooked meat. Our whey is gonna be the lowest in fat, 1 to 0 grams of fat, depending on your type of whey. But it's gonna have a little bit higher in carbohydrate, 3 grams of carbohydrate, while your beef is gonna be the highest calorie proportionately, as depending on the beef amount. See, I have here 96.4 ground beef, and this one's gonna have 5 grams of fat for that portion, while your chicken is gonna be around 2 grams of fat. So beef would be the highest in calories, also the highest in fat. Chicken kind of more in the middle ground, while your whey is going to be the lowest in fat. Now this just matters if it depends if it fits within your macro targets for the day. However, with beef we have to make some consideration that it is going to be higher in saturated fat, which could be impactful to someone's lipid levels if they are getting lots of saturated fat in their diet for the day. Now, micronutrient considerations. Your whole food sources are going to be a lot higher in micronutrients than your whey, unless they're being fortified with other added nutrients, which your beef and chicken are going to be higher in iron, selenium, zinc, and your B vitamins, which are primary sources of where we're getting those nutrients from. Beef being a little bit higher in iron if you are a female. So your whole foods does have the advantage in that sense. Now, amino acid content, because we talked about aminos, and you want a lot of leucine. Leucine is like the anabolic trigger for muscle building. Your whey is going to be highest in leucine. So it's going to have 3 grams of leucine, while your whole food sources will be closer to that 2 gram mark. However, that kind of gets washed out. If you consume enough total protein for the day, you're going to get enough of the essential amino acids to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and all those processes. So if we're looking at our macro-micro breakdown, I'd have to pick, if I had to pick one, I'd kind of give our advantages to our whole food sources. Number 2, our biological value of these protein sources and also absorption rate. And with biological value, there's different ways we can rate these proteins. And what I previously mentioned about leucine, a lot of these amino acids can be rated off of how much of these amino acids, when you consume them, would go into actual tissue. So turn into muscle tissue or be integrated into other bodily tissues, organs. And if we have egg, which we consider egg white being a score of 100, a biological value, your whey scores up high around 140, 160, while beef and chicken is a little bit lower on this scale. So that's one aspect. Now, absorption rate, of course, being that is going to be a powder and a drink mix, the absorption rate of whey is much faster than your whole food sources. This is what spurred on a lot of initial research looking at whey in the post-workout window, because we need this immediate flood of amino acids, right? And what we kind of later found out is this gets kind of washed out when you look at the whole context of if someone's consuming enough protein for the whole day, and you have these feedings where amino acids are going up and down, there's kind of this intermixing between meals that happens to where the absorption kinetics don't quite matter as much. However, I would put in context that it just really matters that you are getting enough protein and also you're digesting these sources adequately. If I had to weigh them out though for the biological value and absorption rate, you would have to give the win to whey on that one. All right, number 3, Sanity. How do these work for hunger? And this kind of depends, right? If you're off season or you're a contest prep, if you're a contest prep, maybe you want a food that's gonna give you better satiety and you won't be as hungry. If you're in the off season, maybe you need something that's gonna be digesting quick that can help with stimulating hunger slightly. And so with both of these, we have some choices here. With whey, it's gonna digest fast, which can decrease the amount of satiety that you're gonna get from that meal, while your whole foods are gonna take longer to digest, especially beef, because it's gonna be higher in fat, which will just slow down digestion. So that's one point that I would probably give to whey on if you're in a off-season setting. But your whole food sources, probably if you're in contest prep. Now, one other aspect around this too would be, hear people, hey, can I make chicken shakes? And you know, preference-wise, that's a whole nother thing on itself, but does it affect the way the protein digests? And you know, my answer to this is that you still would uptake it. It doesn't matter if you're drinking your meals or you're chewing meals, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you're chewing this meal up or you're putting it in a shake, it's relatively the same type of mechanical breakdown that occurs. However, if you're adding a lot of water, you might dilute and has a large volume. That large volume drinking it might slow down digestion a little bit. So that might be a consideration in the off season. If you're trying to drink these large shakes, you actually might be causing more hindrance than what you're trying to be actually helpful by, you know, having this quick, easy swallow drink that you could do versus, you know, having to chew all your food. It might be a suggestion to try doing ground meats over whole meats that you have to chew, and maybe you're swallowing larger portions, and those ground meats would digest a little bit easier. But regarding satiety and consideration, can go either way. Could be a tie. Right, number 4, convenience. I think we clearly know what the winner would be here, right? Whey, easily, hands down. Powder, throw in a shaker bottle, drink it, protein is done. With these, they're raw. I'm not into the raw diet, so I have to cook my meat and then also sit down and have to eat it and chew it, and that's gonna take a lot longer. So not nearly as convenient as doing whey. So our winner for convenience sake was gonna be whey. Number 5. Creatine content. Why do we care about creatine? Well, creatine monohydrate, for one, is probably our most researched supplement to provide good evidence of muscle hypertrophy, strength, recovery, all the things that we want when we're chasing our bodybuilding goals, right? Well, there's creatine content in your chicken and beef, and it's about 0.4 grams per serving. So about a 4-ounce serving of chicken and beef contains about 0.4 grams of creatine. Knowing about creatine, this is a very small amount of creatine. You have to eat about 2.2 pounds of meat per day to get your 45 grams, which we know 45 grams of taking creatine monohydrate saturates the muscle with creatine and gets you all those muscle building benefits. So if you're not consuming that much meat a day, you might not be getting enough creatine. Now with whey, there's no creatine that's gonna be coming your way unless it's an addition that's already added in. Now, you can kind of cheat a little bit, and we could use Animal's new Creatine XL powder, which 1 scoop is 5 grams of creatine. We could add that into our whey and have a great way, no pun intended, to boost up the creatine amount. Or, hey, we can even do our creatine chews to add to that. So that's one way to offset the amount of creatine content. Now, if we were not going to cheat with our creatine powder, then you'd have to give the win to your whole foods, because they already have some inherent creatine content that already comes in them. But either way, there is a way to get your creatine out of your protein sources. Number 6, what we actually care about, building muscle. How do they compare? Well, we actually have a pretty cool study that looked at this. 41 men and women resistance trained for 8 weeks, and over the course of this 8 weeks, they all took a serving of, it was 46 grams of whey, beef, or chicken. And this was actually all powder form, so it was like a beef protein isolate or a chicken protein isolate, whey isolate, and there was a control group. And after the 8 weeks, who made the most gains? That's what we want to know, right? Well, it was a tie. They all had the same amount of gains. And so what we have to go back to this point of, if you're consuming enough total protein for the day, that's going to be adequate and meet your goals for what you need for muscle building. Now, let's tally up our scores, right? We had 2 wins for whole food, we had 2 wins for whey, we had 2 ties. Looks like it's a tie between chicken and beef. No clear winner. Maybe I could have added some other points to skew the results, right? But the truth be told, and the real answer to the question, is there's not one protein source that's going to be better to choose. Really, you should be choosing a variety because each one has their own application and their own unique thing that they can bring. With whole foods bringing more micronutrients, some can have more fats, some can have for benefits for satiety in points when you need higher amount of hunger suppression, while whey can be convenient and has a great amino acid profile and is also just quick if you all need something like in off season when your hunger is really low. So each one has their own application. I would recommend, like, what is a great diet? It's one that can provide a variety of nutrients and cover your needs. So using a variety of protein sources is going to be the best choice for bodybuilding and for your hypertrophy goals. But I would like to hear from you. What is your number one protein source? If you had to live off one protein, that's it. Only chicken, only beef, only tofu, whatever it is, leave a comment below. I want to hear it. I want to hear why you would choose that protein source.